Okay, starting with day one. Um, let's get this show on the road. All right, so without any further ado, number one, a dolphin was swimming, so we're going to go back all the way to the beginning of time. In our case, September of 2019. A dolphin was swimming at 20 feet below sea level. So it's always nice if you use some type of diagram, right? So if this is 0, it represents sea level, and over here is negative 20, right? Because that's where the dolphin is. Here's the dolphin. And then it says it dove 45 feet below its original position. So from negative 20, it went further down 45 feet. Let me take that plus sign out of the way. Went further down 45 feet. So what's a dolphin's new depth, right? So the dolphin is obviously a little bit deeper. And if you're a negative 20 and you go down, so think of an apartment or an elevator, and you go down 45 floors from negative 20, you'll end up at negative 65. So in this case, negative 65 feet. Which integer represent the depth of the dolphin side? It should be negative 65. So none of these are correct. Unless I'm reading it wrong, was swimming at 20 feet below sea level. Okay, negative 20. Then it dove 45 feet below its original position. So it was a negative 20, and then it went further down 45. It should be a negative 65. So none of these are correct. So I'm just going to make this negative 65. Okay. Number 4, a group of hikers climb from Salt Flats elevation. So again, here's sea level. This is negative 55. That's where they are, and they're going to Talon Bluff, which is above sea level. And they're all at Talon Bluff is, and this is obviously not to scale, but it's 620 feet above sea level. So that's plus 620. This is minus 55. What is the difference in elevation? So imagine you're at negative 55. So again, I like the building. What do you call the building? The building example. You're at negative 50 on the negative 55th floor underground, and you have to go all the way to the 620th floor. Well, take it part by part. So negative 55. So if you're here and you go to the ground level at 0, you obviously have to go 55 floors up. And then from 0 to 620, you would have to go another 620 feet, 620 floors. So in this case, it's feet, not floors. So 620 plus 55, you would have to go 675 feet up in that direction, right? So we obviously have D. So again, I'd like you guys to use some type of diagram if it helps, if it's easier. If you don't like to use a diagram or an algebraic expression would have been just fine too. Number 2, on a winter Monday in Prescott, the temperature at 8 a.m. was negative 8. So again, I'm going to use this. So 0 degrees, we're at negative 8. At 1 p.m. it was 27 degrees. Wow, big change. So obviously the temperature went up. So let me put 27 degrees up here. By how many degrees did the temperature change from morning to afternoon? So again, remember, we're measuring distance. So the distance can't be negative. So right away, this is garbage and this is garbage, right? We're measuring distance, okay, in a way. So temperature here from 0 to 8 is 8. And then from 0 to 27 is 27, and 27, 8 plus 35. Right, so it went up plus 35. So this is not distance, but so I'm going to take that away before nothing. Forget it. It's just 35 degrees. So it went up 35 degrees. Okay, and I'll come back to that later. Simplify the expression below. You are going to have a calculator. So you have so many choices on what to do, but you remember that if you don't know how to use a calculator, it's going to be completely a useless tool, especially for expressions like this. So 1/8 is just 1/8 plus, and then let's focus on this guy here. Negative 1/2 to the third, imagine. So understand what it means. Everything inside the parentheses is being raised to the third power, so it's negative 1/2 times negative 1/2 times negative 1/2. That's easy, right? Because it's 1 over 8, but what we have to worry about is the sign. So negative times a negative, these two become positive, and the positive times a negative becomes a negative. So that ends up being negative 1/8. Minus, and then again 1/4 to the second power. So let's just focus on the 1/4 to the second power. It's 1/4 times 1/4, and that gives us 1/16. You notice that 1/8. You're gonna notice that 1/8 plus negative 1/8, they're additive inverse. So this actually becomes 0. And you have this negative 1/16 left over, which makes our answer B. 3. On July, Mary had a balance of $50 in her bank account, which means she had $50. She made the following 4 transactions. She deposited 25. So depositing 25 means that she added, so now she has 75. Then she withdrew 30, so she had 75. She's going to take out $30, so she's going to have $45 now. And then she wrote a check for 60, so she had $45 and subtract 60, right? She actually wrote a check for more than she has, so she's now at negative 15. So she owes the bank negative $15. And then she paid a bank fee of $25. So she was at negative 15, so she paid a bank fee of $25. So she put $25 in her account. And negative 15 plus 25 gives us positive 10. So she ends up having $10 in her account. And that's our answer. 6, subtract, and again, I have a calculator, so it's negative 2/3. What you might want to do here is change this to an addition problem. Negative 2/3 plus, right? This becomes a plus, and we're going to end the opposite of this is just 2/5. So this is what you actually end up having, plus 2/5, right? And then now it's just a matter, again, of using a calculator, finding the LCM. This is times 5 is 15, so times 5 on the top is negative 10. How did the 5 become a 15? So it's times 3, and then times 3 over here becomes a 6. The denominator states a negative 10 plus 6. Obviously, there's more negatives here, so we're going to get negative 4 over 15. And do we have something like that? We do. B. Divide, and again, before you divide this, I highly suggest that you change this to a improper fraction. So 5 times 1 is 5 plus 1. So you're going to get 6 over 5, but negative, right? Don't forget the negative. Divided by, and again, 6 times 1 is 6, plus 5 is 11. 11 over 6, but negative. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal, right? So we're going to multiply the first fraction times the reciprocal of negative 11 over 6, which is going to be negative 6 over 11. Negative times a negative is a positive. 6 times 6 is 36, and 5 times 11 is 55. We have something like that right there. Numero 8, a lot of things going on, so let's take care of the parentheses. So in the parentheses, I'm going to do this part right here, the numerator. So negative 6 is going to stay out waiting, and inside that big parentheses, I'm going to do negative 3 minus negative 7.4. Negative 3 minus 7.4, I'm going to change the subtraction to addition, negative 3 plus negative 7.4. They're both negatives, right? So they're friends, so it's going to be negative 10.4, right? Everybody's negative, over, what is that, half? Over a half. But you know what I'm going to do? Instead of writing over a half, I'm going to write it like this, divided by half, which is the same thing. So continuing, negative 6, and then I'm going to have negative 10.4 times the reciprocal of 1/2 is 2, right? So, or 2 over 1, but we don't need to put the 2 over 1. Again, I'm still working on the inside the parentheses, so I get negative 6, and negative 10.4 times 2 is positive 20.8. If I multiply negative 6 times 20.8, it's going to give me a negative number. Sorry, this is negative, so it's a negative times a negative gives me a positive, sorry. 6 times 8 is 48, goes 4. And then 6 times 2 is 12, 1 decimal point over, 124.8. There's your answer. So the key here is this, taking care of the numerator first, and then maybe changing it if you like to be more comfortable, changing it to this horizontally, divided by half, and then just do the arithmetic. Evaluate negative 2 over 3 to the third power. So again, Remember, just one thing, that this is the same thing, and I'm going to write it in 3 different ways. These are all the same, whether the minus sign is here in the middle, or in the numerator, or in the denominator. They're all negative. Okay, so this is a negative divided by a positive, which is going to give you a negative. This is a positive divided by a negative. The answer, when you put this in a calculator, it's going to be negative. And so will this. Okay, so it really doesn't matter where you put that negative. So I'm just going to put it, let's say it clears. I'll put it like this, negative 2 over 3, and we're raising, right? So everyone who's in this, inside this parentheses, is going to be multiplied by itself 3 times. So negative 2/3 times negative 2/3 times negative 2/3. So let's take care of our signs. Negative times a negative is a positive, and positive times a negative is a negative. So the answer is negative, so this is garbage. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Let me put the negative sign. No, 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 go back. What did I do? Negative times a negative is a positive, and positive times a negative is a negative. So my answer is negative. So anybody who's positive can disappear. Garbage, garbage, garbage. So negative, and my fraction is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. And on top, 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. And you can see that our answer is there. Well, actually, you didn't have to do any of this. Just by looking at your multiple choice and knowing that the answer was going to be negative, right? So if you know the answer is going to be negative right away, done. You didn't have to do anything. No calculations necessary. This one deals with absolute value, so let's take care of that first. Negative 7 is just going to hang outside here for a second. Let's take care of the inside, and so is a 3 for now. 2 to the 4th is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 2, 4, 8, 16. And then that 16 is going to be subtracted, right? So 16 minus 10 is going to be 8. So I'm going to put an 8. So all this changes to 8. Let's take the absolute value of 8. So negative 7 times the absolute value of 8 is just 8. And then plus 3. Negative 7 times 8 is negative 56 plus 3. And you can tell there are more negatives, right? So my answer is going to be negative 53. And we have that right there. 14, what kind of number results from simplifying 9 pi over 6 pi? So some of you might not have done any work with this yet, so it's okay. So remember, we can simplify, right? So here's what we can do. I can cross out that pi with this pi. You cross out because, sorry, maybe it's better if I rewrote it like this. Right, so this can cross out. What is this? They become 1. Pi divided by pi is just 1. So in essence, that becomes 9 over 6 times 1, right? But we don't need to write that. So it just becomes 9 over 6. And 9 over 6, if you divide 9 over 6 in your calculator, that becomes super easy. 9 divided by 6 is going to be 1.5. It's going to be not a whole number, a repeating decimal. No, it's not a decimal that goes forever and ever. And a terminating decimal, a decimal that ends, 1.5. It ends right here. It doesn't continue. So this is our answer. Please tell me this. No, 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 no. Yes. It's recording. It is. Moving on, 15 or 10 or something. So again, let's take care of the absolute values, and then so it's minus, and that minus sign is waiting for a number. So inside the absolute value, we got 7 minus 3, which is 4. Minus, and then let's take care of the absolute value of negative 5, and the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So this whole thing, I change it to 5. Still not done. The minus sign now is waiting for the absolute value of 4, which is 4. So after they are all gone, you get this. Negative 4 minus negative 5. You can change that to an addition problem. Negative 4 plus negative 5. And that's going to give us negative 9. Answer B. 15, what's the value of the expression? Likewise, let's do inside the absolute value symbol and then take the absolute value of the number. So negative 5 does nothing for now. Plus, and let's think about what negative 3 to the second power is. That is the same thing as negative 3 times negative 3. Negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 3 is 9. So this actually is the same thing as 9. So I'm going to change that. So instead of negative 3 to the second power, I'm just going to write 9. Absolute value. Now let's calculate negative 5 plus 9. Well, obviously there's more positives here. How many more? 4 more. So this becomes 4. Still the absolute value sign. And now you can ask yourself how far or how many units is 4 away from 0, which is just 4. Final answer, C. Miss Brown gave her class the following mental math problem. Find the product of negative 8 and negative 7. So let's do negative 8 times negative 7. Negative times a negative is a positive, positive 56. Multiply your answer by 5, so 56 times 5. 0, 3, 25, 28. So, and divide your answer by negative 5. So 280 divided by negative 5. So my answer is going to be something negative. Right away, I can get rid of this guy and get rid of this guy. So it's either going to be negative 56 or negative 280. Well, without even doing the problem, I can tell you that 280 divided by negative 5 is going to be this. It doesn't make any sense that 280 divided by negative 5 is actually negative 280, correct? So there, the process of elimination, we can. And this actually buys you a few moments, right? Because you don't have to do the whole thing to find your answer sometimes. 12. 3 times the absolute value of 2 minus 4. 2 minus 4 is negative 2, right? 2 minus 4 is the same thing as 2 plus negative 4. There are more negatives, so negative 2 more. Minus 7. Now we can take the absolute value. 3 times the absolute value of negative 2 is just 2, because negative 2 is 2 units away from 0. And then minus 7. 3 times 2 is 6, and then minus 7. We can change this to a, what do you call, addition. 6 plus negative 7, and obviously there's more negatives, and we get negative 1. Which expression is equivalent to 8 minus 12? And I know you guys have a calculator, and you can enter this right away, but it's also nice to know why the answer is that way. Let's change this to an addition problem. Plus, and then 12, the opposite of 12 is negative 12. So now you got two negative numbers we're adding, so they're all friends. So you're going to have a much larger group of negatives. Actually, we don't even have to calculate it because I didn't read the question. So which expression is equivalent? So negative 8 minus 12 is the same thing as saying negative 8 plus negative 12. Negative 8 plus negative 12. There you go. Right here. 17. What's the quotient when 51 is divided by negative 7? Well, it's 51 divided by negative 17. Alexa, stop. So first of all, my answer is going to be negative. So if it's positive, adios. And 51 divided by negative 17. Alexa, stop. Does it make sense that 51 divided by negative 17 is negative 34? It doesn't. So this is also garbage. Even without doing anything, you get that. And you can confirm this by doing the calculations. Next, what's the product of 3 times negative 16? It's a positive 3 times a negative 16. So my answer is going to be negative because a positive times a negative is a negative. So if it's positive, garbage, garbage. 3 times negative 16, there's no way it's 13. And 3 times 16 is 16 plus 16 plus 16, but negative. So right there is our answer. Pretty simple. And that's it for day 1. Yeah.